So everybody that went on social media to complain about wokeness, or to keyboard warrior about there's only women in the game after the first announcement trailer, I have a question for you. And I'm going to get real close. I'm going to come right down to the camera and I'm going to say, is this enough for you? Is there enough in your Fable game? Yeah? Good? Okay, let's move on.
Hi, welcome to Playground Games, where I'm thrilled to share our very first deep dive into a game we've been making here for a really, really long time. Fable.
It's been 10 months since we last got a taste of what the new Fable game had in store. We got 52 seconds of pre-alpha gameplay, and I talked about it for almost 27 minutes. This time around, they showed us just shy of 11 minutes of meaty content, so strap in for my own personal breakdown of what we've seen, what the devs have said, and what else might be coming in the new Fable game. I'm vintage. I've been playing Fable games non-stop since I discovered Fable 2 in 2008, and also I have a sword. I know the sword thing is cringe, but I don't get to use it for sword-related activities anymore, so this is what it's getting used for. We're going to take the footage as it comes and talk about it in reveal order. So first up is this beautiful Balverine Fresco. This could be for a number of things. It'd be easy to say that this is for a loading screen, or maybe even just collector's edition art, but fans of the series will remember the storytelling frescoes from Fable 1, which then appear in the destroyed Guildhall in Fable 2. So this could be a return to that kind of storytelling, which to me always felt a little bit like walking around a museum with like an audio tour guide. Since writing the script, somebody in the Fable subreddit looked at the 4K footage and was able to read the file names in the Photoshop document we can see here. I can't find the thread, but it was something along the lines of Bowerstone Balverine Massacre, which gives us some cool context on the Balverine content we saw from the previous trailer. It did make me think that we'll almost definitely get some chapter segments that are depicted in a similar style to the paper cutout animated segments from the previous games.
Since 2010, we've been developing the Forza Horizon series right here in Royal Leamington Spa, a charming little town in the middle of England. As Horizon has grown, so have we. Over the past few years, we've built a new team to carry that reputation into a new genre that we are incredibly passionate about. Fable is Playground's first open-world action RPG, and we couldn't be more proud to be carrying on the work of the legendary Lionhead Studios, the original creators of the franchise.
We've got confirmation that the new game is open world. It's later stated that you can go anywhere you want from the start. Now, we don't know if that means there'll be some kind of level scaling. Hopefully that won't be the case, and it'll be more like, sure, you can go to Bloodstone straight off the bat, but the Banshees and Wraithmarsh are going to eat your soul, unless you can go to Bloodstone straight off the bat. The Banshees are only level 3 because you're only level 2.
And although our game is a new beginning, I think what we're making is really faithful to the spirit of the classic Lionhead trilogy that we all love.
Here he says, a new beginning, but faithful to the trilogy. I'm relieved that even Playground Games are pretending Fable the Journey didn't exist. If you don't remember Journey, that's because it was a Kinect game. Apparently it had really good story and built on the lore, but we'll never know because nobody played it. We get to see a cheeky new spell. I'm going to talk more about the combat and specifically the spells that we see in the trailer later. But for now, I just need to get a pun off my chest. That hob was just poultry morphed. You get it? Like polymorph? But he was a chicken. If you are wondering, yes, I am a dad. Moving on.
At the heart of our game is a simple recurring question. What does it mean to you to be a hero? Our game is about choices and their consequences. It's packed with action, drama, British humour, moral dilemmas, and quite a few chickens. All of this combines in a fairy tale which could only be Fable.
In classic Fable fashion, you begin the game as a child, growing up in the sleepy rural village of Briar Hill. It's here that in a moment of extreme danger, your heroic powers first emerge.
I'm really glad we're starting the prologue as a child. It's something I really loved about the first two games. It really sets the scene for our hero's origins. Starting out with an adult means you've got very little idea of their motivations until they're explained to you. Starting as a child and living through the tragedy that set them on their path really helps, at least helps me with immersion. Also, it was loads of fun to snitch on the guy cheating on his wife, beat up the bully, and decide to either destroy or defend the warehouse stock. And I'm now realizing that the story beats of Fable 1 and 2's intro are basically the same. Anyway, from the minimap, we can see this place is called Briar Hill, and being home to the Rose and Thorn could be a little homage to Briar Rose from Fable 1, or as a 2-for-1, a reference to Rose, your big sister from Fable 2.
And we discovered that you are Albion's first hero in a generation.
The first hero in a generation. I overlooked this comment originally, thinking it was similar to Fable 2, but Fable 2 takes place 500 years after Fable 1, so you weren't the first in a generation, you were the first in about 20 generations. In this interview with IGN, Ralph mentioned Fable 2 was his favourite, so it's no surprise the setup is taking inspiration. The comment might actually explain why the Heroes Guild was so empty in the footage from the 2024 Humphrey trailer. Some heroes benefit from extra longevity, but maybe the guild was so empty because there just aren't many heroes around. What else can we see in Briar Hill? We can see what looks like a cosmetic shop in the background. Either a tailor or a hairstylist, perhaps. Judging from the mannequins outside, these kinds of shop setups are really common in the old games, but please give me a regular shop inventory. The Fable 3 system was, to put it lightly, not good.
But not long afterwards, disaster strikes, and the people of your village, including your beloved grandma, are turned to stone by a mysterious stranger. Suddenly alone in the world, you'll set off on an adventure which will change Albion forever.
Your village and grandma are turned to stone by a stranger. Here's our standard traumatic event to kick off the transition from childhood to young adult. There's also another child-shaped statue here, which could infer that we have a sibling once again. There's also some very difficult to see figures in the mist. These could either be more statues or potentially a big bad. I did do a little bit of digging, and by digging I mean I had a little think about it and then asked someone on Reddit that knew more about the extended lore than I do if they knew of any other instances of people being petrified or turned to stone. The only occasion that we could think of was the Wheel of Misfortune from Fable 2, located in the Temple of Shadows, which had a small chance to turn its victims to stone.
Venturing out into the world is a huge moment, because this is Albion like you've never seen it before. Idyllic rolling hills, magical forests, bustling villages, sleepy hamlets, oversized vegetable patches, and stunning vistas.
I keep saying it, but they keep showing us beautiful scenery. These are some lovely rolling hills. Then we move on to magical forests. These giant mushrooms look amazing. They're a really cool fantasy device. I'm wondering if they'll be tied to the giant vegetable storyline with Dave, or if the giant mushroom forest just kind of exists of its own accord. Hopefully this will also see the advent of some kind of like myconoid creatures in the game, and at the very least, I think it fits the home of the fairies and the nymphs from previous games and trailers. Giant vegetables! It took me longer than I'd like to admit to notice that these are not trees. These are in fact giant tomato plants, which is a really cool touch. We also see two signs. We get your classic fudge off sign, and then there's a Vikram free zone. At a guess, Vikram could be the dude we see yelling at Dave in the 2024 trailer.
You'll be able to explore this rich and detailed world seamlessly, with the freedom to go where you want from early in the game.
We can't wait to welcome you back to Albion's iconic capital city, Bowerstone.
It looks like Bowerstone have built the castle walls again. Not that they weren't there previously, but in Fable 1 you could really feel the walls of the town. By Fable 2 they were still very present, but the town was so big you kind of forgot they were there. And then come Fable 3 they were kind of hidden by the Industrial Revolution style terrace housing. So it's nice to see them standing so bright and feeling important again. They're quite actually imposing. The walls could also be a sign that there'll be a real separation between Bowerstone North and Bowerstone South. We might have to earn our entry into the fancy part of town again. Provided there's a morally questionable hottie there to seduce, then that'll still be worth it. The statues look amazing. I'm hoping these are hero pedestals that we can commission through a minigame. I loved having statues of myself soiling my pants after failing the expression during the sculptor's side quest. It'd be very cool if they could then provide some kind of passive renown boost in the area, again similar to how it worked in Fable 2. It was a real shame that by Fable 3 those kind of plinths were only in the Road to Rule and you didn't really get much control over them. It was just whatever outfit you were wearing at the time, which led to me nipping back to the Sanctuary to change outfits and weapons to make sure the statue looked cool because it was immortalised for the rest of the game. An amazing looking castle. If you can access all of these areas that we can see in this shot, then it'll be likely a good portion of the story could unfold like within the castle grounds. They're not going to build out the entirety of Fairfax Castle if all you can do is sleep in the bedrooms again. Expectations and level of detail have come a long way since the old games, so only time will really tell. But fingers crossed, there'll be more to explore than we've seen in previous entries of the series. But hopefully it won't just all be empty corridors and rooms filled with cleaning staff. The old clock tower coming back is a huge nostalgia hit. I really like what they're doing with the climbing plants and the flowers everywhere in Bowerstone. Hopefully there's a lot of variety in the areas we get to visit. They show a bit more of the biomes we'll visit in later footage, and there's some more to look forwards to. I'm just praying they have the same level of detail as this version of Bowerstone. The Heroes Guild is back, baby! The guild seal at the centre of the window looks very cool. I think it could just be me, but I could swear there's almost like a human figure at the centre. Also, the building is giving me slight like eldritch horror vibes, like with tentacles everywhere. It's almost like it's taken a leaf out of Bloodborne's books. Okay, this is potentially a very long shot, and I haven't seen anybody else mention it, but is that a demon door? In the bottom left, behind the bush, it could just be a gazebo or a wall with some decoration on it, but the cope is telling me that this is the out of focus fringes of a demon door. The guild used to have a demon door on the grounds and one right outside the doors. Fable 2's Bower Lake, where the destroyed guild was located, also had a demon door. So demon doors are one of my favourite parts of the Fable series, and I'm really hopeful for their return. I want another beautiful Serenity Farm, I want a terrifying Winter Lodge, or like a challenging butterfly house. I want a sentient door to make me dress up in stupid clothing and bring him cheese. I guess what I'm saying is that I am a slut for demon doors. Moving on.
Huge city, full of contrasts. Rich and poor, nobles and commoners.
Another hero statue. These could be static and unchanging, since there have always been unchanging statues in the Fable games. But I like to think if you gain enough influence, you can change them. This shot immediately gave me vibes of Bowerstone North. The more I come back to it, the more certain I am. It's a little more sparse, more curated, less wildflowers climbing over everything, and more like pruned bushes in planters. They also talk a lot about rich and poor when transitioning to this shot, which does align with that theory.
Royalty and criminals. You'll spend plenty of time here during the game.
This looks like a view looking out of Bowerstone from down near the canal. It's got a bit of a shambles-like aesthetic to it. I still think it's the Bowerstone Bridge and not somewhere like Old Town. You can see the guild, which has historically been located not far from the gates of Bowerstone, although the mention of criminals in the narration gives me a little pause for thought that it could be Old Town if they've changed the layout, or the area around Bowerstone. It might have a canal running around the back as well.
You'll spend plenty of time here during the game as you discover the secrets of the Heroes Guild and its reclusive guildmaster, Humphrey the Golden.
Humphrey the Golden. He says Golder. I'm sure he means golden, unless he's got some kind of Midas touch ability. That would be cool. That would be very cool. This character is played by the lovely Matt King, and did I mention he commented on my old video where I accidentally implied he'd gotten fat?
I do wonder if they changed the design of this character from looking like Matt King to this version of Humphrey.
And he was very understanding. We've seen this footage before, but the new commentary about him being the reclusive master confirmed first and foremost that he is the guild master, so we can get ready for Super Hands to talk to us through the guild seal, telling us to Jackson Pollock these motherfuckers. I know all these jokes are Peep Show related, but Matt King had a lot of other very influential roles like Rock and Roller, Bronson. He was even in the movie adaptation of Inkheart, which I absolutely loved. I mentioned earlier that the old shots of the guild seemed a little empty. The comment about him being reclusive kind of explains that. Potentially he's hiding out in private areas of the guild, but I think it's safe to say we're not going to be seeing many other heroes in our playthrough.
In the north of Albion, you'll find mountains, craggy coastlines, spooky marshes, and the bleak, windswept city of Bloodstone.
In the north of Albion, rocky coasts reminds me of Rookridge or the Bandit Coast. We see another petrified statue, which hints to the fact that we may visit these areas in our search for whoever petrified our granny. We can also see burnt out, destroyed buildings in the background. We had a similar sunken town in Fable 2, which was revealed by Teresa to be Oakvale from the first game. It'd be amusing to have the same story beat as a homage to the original Fable, but it is likely something else. It could even be Briar Hill, after the Big Bad Rex shop at the end of the prologue. Spooky marshes, you say? Please let this be Wraith Marsh. It would track with what's been said so far. The route to Bloodstone in Fable 2 was Bower Lake, Brightwood, Colour's Gate to Wraith Marsh, and Pop Out in Bloodstone. Also, I don't know about anybody else, but I always assumed Bloodstone was in the south. Editing vintage here, I recorded this before actually looking at a map of Albion, and yes, Bloodstone did used to be in the south. I don't know if that means they're moving the world around, or if I just have really bad sense of direction. It gets a bit wibbly wobbly when you're using colour skates instead of travelling on foot. We can see here another hero statue in the streets. Looking at the style of the buildings and the lighting used here, it reminds me of the scene from the 2024 trailer that had the man kicking the guy on the ground.
Here you'll meet the leaders of two rival gangs, vying for power, and uncover the secrets of the sinister but extremely well-organized Cult of Shadows.
We're going to meet the leaders of two rival gangs, but he only mentions the Cult of Shadows. Not to be confused with the Temple of Shadows or the Court, where fan favourite Jack of Blades came from. The way he mentions it and the following scenes of fighting what looks like bandits makes me think the Cult of Shadows is separate to the two gangs. Who knows, maybe the Temple of TOBY has gained some traction in Bloodstone after all. That said, there has usually been some kind of rivalry between Temple of Light versus Temple of Shadows, or Temple of Scorn versus Temple of Avo, so it could all be a similar thing with Cult of Shadows and a Cult of Sunlight. Avo? Avo? Arvo? I don't know how you're supposed to say that.
Our Albion is beautiful, handcrafted, and richly detailed.
The horse! This isn't new. We saw the horse back in 2024, but it does segue nicely into a section of the IGN interview. There will be no dog. I'm a big fan of the canine companion, and I had hoped they were going to expand on the mechanic rather than scrap it. I wanted options for hob companions, cats, or maybe like a particularly obedient hollow folk. I'm getting used to the new name. But alas, it's not meant to be. It's a topic that splits the community down the middle. It does make me sad. I love the dog, but I'll get over it.
It's not going to work. Don't look at me like that. Oh, very well. Good dog.
There's been some speculation that the dog might appear in a DLC. However, I don't think that's likely. To add a dog to the game would require reworking almost every part of the game from the ground up. You'd have to consider how NPCs interact with the dog, how enemies interact with it, can they go in shops, does having a dog impact any of the quests, what does Dave the Giant do if you have a dog? If they were going to do all of that in a DLC, I'd feel like they were keeping a core gameplay feature behind an extra paywall, and it'd really rub me up the wrong way and probably leave a sour taste in most people's mouths. If they do add a dog via DLC at a later date, I would expect it to just sit in the guild and wait for you to pet it, or maybe in your like house or the town that you're from, it might run around. People really like to dumb down how much interaction the dog has to, it just follows you around and you pet it and it barks. How hard can that be? And it's like, I can tell you firsthand, it's harder than that. However hard you think it is, it's harder than that. Phrasing. Maybe we'll get a dog in a sequel.
In Albion, heroes are special, different. They're stronger than regular people. They're more skillful, more charismatic. More importantly, they're those rare humans who can harness and use magic in the world around them. They have the power to do what they want.
And so do you. In our game, we want you to play as the hero you want to be. And that starts with being able to choose how your hero character looks.
So, in Fable, you'll be able to pick from a range of different character heads and customize your clothing, hair, skin tone, tattoos, and scars, so the hero you play represents you.
From one contentious topic to the next, character customization. To all the fans of the series that were patiently waiting to find out more about character customization, how fucking cool is that chicken suit? And to everybody that went on social media to complain about wokeness, or to Keyboard Warrior about there's only women in the game after the first announcement trailer, I have a question for you. And I'm going to get real close. I'm going to come right down to the camera and I'm going to say, is this enough buck for you? Is there enough buck in your Fable game? Yeah? Good? Okay, let's move on. I need to calm down. That was a bit rude. In terms of customization, they don't show us tons. We've got 2 male type bodies and 1 female type, but they do tell us that we can customize character heads, clothing, hair, skin tone, tattoos, and scars, which is a decent level of customization. Even if it's only a few different heads, that's a decent amount, and more than we've had in previous games outside of clothes, hair, and tattoos. I know the characters got scars, but we didn't really control that. It just happened when you sucked at the game. The last character shot here is very reminiscent of the Fable 2 cover art guy, and that chicken suit is begging me to test my leatherworking skills to try and make that headpiece. It's amazing.
You can be the hero you want to be through the way you play, through the skills and abilities you learn, and through the weapons you use.
Just like the classic trilogy, heroes in our game fight with a combination of strength, skill, and will. Seamlessly blending melee and ranged weapons with magical abilities gives us style-weaving combat.
Combat! And more than just a few seconds of fighting a Balverine. There's a lot to break down here. Something that I think will make a lot of fans happy is the return of the Fable 1 system for spellcasting. You choose 4 spells, you add them to the quick bar, then by holding the right trigger you can cast them using the corresponding face button. It works great, it flows nicely. I don't think anyone's going to miss the charging up spells format from 2 or the gloves from 3. It'll be really cool to see if holding the spell longer will result in charging it up in addition to this system, or if we'll be able to do that kind of spell weaving and combining spells later down the line. That would be very cool. But no, nobody wants the gloves. We don't want the gloves.
Allowing you to show off your personal playstyle against single opponents and large groups of enemies alike.
I was going to do more detail on spells after the combat section, but I think it fits quite nicely here. So here we go. The first combat wheel, we can see Poultry Morph, a wind icon, which I would wager is akin to like a force push, a feather, which all I can think is Featherfall, but that seems like too niche of a use case and not something that would have fit into any previous Fable games, but maybe it's useful for this one. I don't know, maybe fighting Dave the Giant you can fall from great heights and it's vital. If you think you know, put it in the comments and I'll have a look. Lastly, we have this kind of fire, lightning or brambles icon. No idea. It could be the levitate spell that we saw from the 2024 trailer where all the hobs get floated up into the air. Again, that could be the feather one. So yeah, not sure what either of those two are. I'm really keen to see what you guys think. Later, we see the blade spell. This was hands down the coolest spell from the Fable games. Sadly, it was also kind of rubbish. It was too slow, the damage was split up too much, you couldn't really pick your targets with it. Here, it looks a fair bit quicker, although I'm not sure I like the chunkiness of the spectral blades. Maybe we'll get to customize that and we can have some really sharp looking rapiers flying through the sky instead. We can also see the fireball spell and the lightning spell, which looks freaking awesome. There's a really satisfying crunch to casting it when the character casts the spell. There's also what looks like a portal spell. This might function like the old Assassin's Rush that would teleport you behind your enemies for that real, like, nothing personal, kid. Yeah. The last spell icon we get to see is the slow time spell, or the easy mode button. Honestly, after turning this spell into a scarcely found potion in Fable 3, I'm really hyped for its return. It does trivialize some elements of the game, but it feels iconic and it feels like a real part of the world. I've always really liked its inclusion. The selection of spells is a good indicator of the toolkit we'll get for the game, and I am excited for it. It covers some of the essentials, but I'm still hoping to see some more buff-based spells. Buff! Not that kind of buff. Spells like multi-hit or multi-shot, rage, summon, physical shield, things that really complement your toolkit.
Melee is at the heart of our close quarters combat. You'll use light and heavy combos, often knocking enemies off balance and executing stylish finishers. Swap to your ranged weapon to bypass enemy guard and deal with troublesome flying enemies.
Okay, back to combat. Above the spell selection, we can see the ammunition for the bow, which starts to regenerate as the bow is sheathed. So it looks like magical arrows are on the table. I think some people spotted this in a previous trailer. I can't remember if I did or not. And honestly, I can't be asked to go back through the footage to check. I'll check when I'm editing, who knows. The script is already 3,500 words long, and I'm not even halfway through the footage. We haven't even talked about morality morphing, and that's going to be a big one. Stay on target. That's a health bar, obviously. What's less obvious is those grey beans above it. At first, I thought it was like spell slots, maybe stamina, but we don't see it decrease at any point. Not when he casts a spell, not when he darts around or makes an attack. So my guess is it's actually like a guard or a poise or shield mechanic, giving you a few free hits before you take damage to your health. Actually, that's kind of like the physical shield spell, so maybe it is making a return. But that brings me nicely to my next point. There seems to be some kind of posture or guard break system in play. We can see above the enemies there's a grey bar with a shield on it. The hero has to damage their way through that bar before they start damaging the enemy's health. This comes into play more when we see the hero fighting the bandits later in the footage. The hero breaks the guard and performs a finisher or like execution move. And it's really nice to see the return of the kill cam, but with a higher level of control rather than it just popping off every time you use a flourish move, which eventually it does get old.
And of course, you'll be able to unleash your powerful spells to both manipulate and devastate your opponents.
Skeletons, also known as hollow men, or as they say later, hollow folk, which is nice and inclusive. In this shot, they do look a little bit like generic skeletons. Hopefully we'll get to see the wisps like diving into the ground to possess them and then they dig their way out. And later we do get to see an armored hollow chap that gives more of the original vibe of hollow men. This guy looks awesome. I was hoping to see a banshee, but this enemy, which I'm now going to call a lamplighter, looks to be kind of similar. He's floating around some kind of shipyard, judging from the mast in the background, and it's really lovely of the player not to kill him outright, so we can see him about to do something cool. I don't know about anybody else, but I always associated banshees with Bloodstone, even though they turn up in Wraith Marsh, because there is the quest in Fable 2 to kill the bigger, badder banshee. In Bloodstone always really stuck out for me, and with the ship masts in the background here, it's really giving me similar kind of Bloodstone vibes.
We're excited to be bringing back some fan favorite adversaries for you to fight. Hobbs are back, as are Balverines, Hollowfolk, and Trolls.
More Hollowfolk! If the old games are anything to go by, there are going to be plenty of these around. We get to see the heroes summoning lightning strikes from the sky rather from their hands. It's a nice touch and it makes more sense, but I will miss going unlimited power while blasting bandits with electricity. Finally, we see the Hollow Knight enemy. This made me very happy, seeing the arrows bounce off the breastplate, then him getting knocked down by shooting out his legs. It's a really nice attention to detail and it really encourages a lot of variety in your gameplay. The repeating crossbow looks great and we get to see the hero smash the head of it into the Hollow Knight too. I think that's probably actually what knocks him down. We've seen Hobbs before and they look great. I was hoping to see some wearing clothes. It's one of the things that made Hobbs unique, the fact that they steal clothes off washing lines, they put trousers on backwards, they put boots on their head and pots and pans for armour. The comedy of it really offsets the sinister truth that they were children lured away in the dark and turned into Hobbs. The voices here also have a bit more of a Three Stooges vibe to them and sound a little bit more grown up, if that makes any sense, whereas in the old games it always felt like they were kids. Wait, does that make it sound like I want to beat up kids? Moving on.
And we're adding brand new enemies too, like this fearsome cockatrice, a giant fire-breathing chicken. Each enemy family is different, with their own weaknesses to exploit and defenses to overcome. But with all the unique tools in your combat toolbox, how you defeat your enemies is up to you.
The cockatrice. We've seen him before, but this time we get a bit more context. Personally, I can't wait to get drop-kicked by the giant chicken WWE style. Did you hear him say each enemy family is different? It makes me wonder if there's going to be some kind of bestiary, and I love a bestiary. There's something really satisfying about filling out a massive compendium of monsters, learning their weaknesses, getting different supplies to prepare for fights or hunts, kind of like The Witcher or like Monster Hunter. I would be absolutely down for that in a Fable game. This looks to be taking place in some kind of nest with eggs visible in the top corner here. I'm curious if the cockatrice is linked to the Jack and the Beanstalk themed quest or if it's just an unrelated beastie. We also learn some more about combat from the cockatrice. There's a dodge indicator that you see in lots of games, followed by what could be a parry system, similar to what you find in the likes of Sekiro. Previous games have been really casual, so I'm hoping that they kind of bridge the gap. I want to be able to hold block and not take any damage, but also have the option to like time my parries perfectly and get a counter-attack opportunity at the end, but I don't want it to be required.
But there's more to being a hero in Albion than fighting, so much more. When we talk to people about their favorite memories of the original games, so many of their stories were about the stuff you can do when you weren't just being a hero. The normal, everyday stuff which happened when you interacted with the people of Albion.
For me, what I remember most vividly are the inhabitants of Albion, and the things you can do with them, or to them.
The crazy thing about the classic Fable games was that in the middle of a sprawling RPG was almost a complete other game, where you could just mess around with the villages and townsfolk.
And we've built that same experience in the middle of our game too. Buying a house, getting a job, making some money.
Blacksmithing! Everyone has fond memories of spending a few hours blacksmithing in Bowerstone Market while Teresa patiently waits for us by the clock tower, getting enough cash together to buy some property before we set off on our adventure and start our landlord empire. I'm so fond of it, I started making a minigame based off it, but that's for another video entirely. This looks like they've stepped up the immersion of it though. It'll still be fun and not a Guitar Hero demake. It also looks like you'll be making more farming tools rather than enough swords to equip an entire army, which is a little bit more realistic.
Having kids.
Fancy a date?
Perfect. You can get to know me better.
Don't worry so much about the NPC. She's got some of that Kingdom Come Deliverance rigidity to her, but we get to see more of the UI, and personally, I love it. I'm going to be stealing it for my Twitch stream. Hint, hint, subscribe on Twitch to watch Fable content and game dev content. We've got the name, we've got the job, their disposition. This one's a charitable commoner. Why they like you, if they like you. These cool little drama masks, which we see the hate version of later. We also see some interaction options at the bottom. Currently selected on date. It looks like we've got options for sex, moving in together, having a baby. It took me a minute, but that's definitely a stork carrying a baby. And proposing? Which is an interesting order you've chosen there, Playground, but all good. Plus, the Scouse is back. I can't wait for the kid to yell, "You're just gonna stand there like a lemon?"
Me better.
The dating gift. Anyone else have flashback to Fable 3's relationship quests? I won't be friends with you until you buy me a specific gift. Which it turns out is only sold by one merchant in the whole world, and you don't have access to that area yet, so every time you visit Brightwall, your child complains about the fact that you haven't bought them a toy gun. I digress. It looks like you have the option to give them a gift or proceed without a gift. Here's some dating advice for you. If you have the chance to bring a gift, do. But don't give your date flowers at the start of a cinema date if they're going to have to carry them around the whole night, so they're all wilted and tired by the time she gets home, plus they take up half the space on the table in the restaurant and draw too much attention to you. But anyway, I digest. This looks like some kind of manor house. It's reminding me a little bit of the Gravekeeper's house in Fable 2, or maybe Sunset House in Fable 3. I think it reminds me of the Gravekeeper's house because it's at night and there's a bit of sad strings in the music when they cut to it. Who knows? Maybe Lady Grey exists across dimensions, and we'll get to resurrect her again for the S-tier goth wife. If it does happen to be Sunset House, you know what that means, right? Our super best friend could be making a comeback. It's Chesty! Only wants to kill you a little bit.
Buying another house. Buying every house in Albion.
They go hard on buying every house in Albion, and with good reason. It's one of the things most people remember fondly about the games. Anytime you talk to anyone about Fable 2, you inevitably get the response like, "Oh yeah, I love that game. I just bought every property in the game and had loads of money." And you have to bite your tongue and say like, "Duh, everybody did that." Literally everyone. "Oh, what's that? You knew about the exploit where you put your Xbox clock forward 10 years and got tons of income all at once?" Yes, so did everyone else. Anyway, I regress. This is a nice clean interface. You've got the type of residence, the name of the property, what looks like max occupancy, and the income. Also, can I act like a real HMO landlord and put up a clumsy stud wall to separate the living room, thus making an extra bedroom I can let out at extortionate rates? Oh, and we've got the purchase price at the bottom.
Buying every business in Albion. Getting rich.
Marrying a bunch more people. Having a bunch more kids. Probably getting divorced along the way for good measure.
They talk about having lots of kids. Hopefully they'll age up into teenagers and maybe young adults. I guess that would depend on the length of the story. Fable 2 had that issue where you go away to the Spire for 10 years and when you come back, your child is still an adorable little toddler. Also, the wolf in Grandma's clothes back there, we see a larger version of this toy outside the building a little later on. Just wanted to know that I'd spotted that. I'm not sure why that and not the other 1,000 things I'm not talking about. Anyway, glad we've got the divorce as a mechanic again. Does that confirm Henry VIII exists in Albion?
And this game within a game is unique to Fable. It's systemic, interconnected, and you see the ripple effects of the things you do everywhere you go.
And all of this revolves around the people who live in Albion.
This is back at Briar Hill again, talking about ripple effects. I'm not sure I see examples of them in this shot specifically, but it is very pretty.
Who we call the living population.
The living population, such an inventive name. I sure do hope the names that they give to systems later on are just as creative and necessary.
There are more than 1,000 of them, and every single one is unique. Each of them has a name, a role, a daily routine, and their own personality. You could follow any one of them for a day and just watch them live their life.
Okay, some people are looking a little bit rigid here, but it's all work in progress, and the ones that are animated look amazing. There's a nice little pop-up above Leslie. I really like the UI elements we've seen so far. It's a bit of a shame they've used the line, every single one is unique, while walking past Leslie here, whose character model appears later on when they're talking about businesses. Again, it's not released yet, and who knows, maybe they're sisters.
They'll get up, go to work, spend some leisure time on hobbies, then go home to bed.
A daily routine. This is something that is very cool and immersive, but also something that is going to result in you running around Bowerstone South for 20 minutes trying to figure out where Bob the crate carrier is at this time of day because a pop-up said he had a gift for you. Is that a town crier outside the Rose and Thorn? It is a big mistake not having them yell, "The time is very late!" Although I have a personal gripe with town criers, ever since one in Bloodstone caught me stealing the sacred ham for the Church of TOBY, it ratted me out to the townspeople, and that resulted in a massacre of about 70% of the people. My pure playthrough was going so well as well. Ah yes, leisure time hobbies. As we all know, there are only two, drinking and reading, never both. But this does seem like a nice feature akin to the old games where all the NPCs go to bed at night and you can find some of them drinking in the local pub before they go home to despawn for the rest of the night.
But what's even cooler is that you can talk to every single one of them in fully voiced conversations and interact with them in loads of different ways.
Fully voiced conversations for every NPC is bonkers. In the IGN interview, Ralph Fulton talks about not having randomly generated NPCs. This is likely the reason they went with handcrafted NPCs. I am really hyped to talk to randomers about what they have going on and hoping that it's more than the old school, "Have you heard about the trouble down at the mine?" from every NPC until you go to the mine and then it's replaced by, "Thank goodness all that trouble at the mine's been cleared up." Yeah, we'll see what that actually manifests into.
I understand the Fighters Guild is hiring new members. Not bad work for some folks.
Maybe the job they go to is working for you because you hired them to work in one of your businesses.
Hey you, working hard? How can I help you, boss?
Businesses! And hiring NPCs. Also, this is Leslie's sister. I'm wondering if that means that you'll get to pick who works there, like sifting through job applications, or if this is Evangeline. She runs the bakery you bought. I keep saying it, but I love the UI that pops up here. It's giving real, like, I want this job because I need to eat to survive and food costs money. It's giving that kind of energy. We can see some more interaction options here. I can't work all of them out, I'm afraid, but we're selected on browse goods, so it's maybe a romance option. A briefcase could be selling things. Then a follow me option, which indicates that we can take NPCs places, like that lovely shadow temple with a loyalty program. Then a gift icon, and lastly, what looks like a praise the floating eye icon. Oh, eye. I just had a thought, this is off script. In previous games, when you were stealing something, an eye popped up. So maybe it's a menu that gives you the option to try and steal from shops, or tells you that you're being watched.
Maybe the bed they sleep in is in a house you own, because you're the landlord.
Or maybe their bed is on the street, because you evicted them.
All right.
Oh, it's you. You're awful.
Oliver the Beggar. I do feel bad for this guy, but mostly because the lady at Playground Games seemed quite excited by the idea of evicting people from their homes. I also love that the first option you get when you interact with the guy you evicted from his house is romance. It's like, hey, heard you don't have a bed anymore, why don't you come sleep in mine for a while?
And all of the stuff you do affects what they think of you.
You're a legend.
Because everything you do builds your reputation.
Very impressive. Now that's an hero right there.
Morality! Deep breaths, everyone. This is going to be a heated debate. They talk about approaching morality as a grey area, something that all the previous games claimed to do in the lead up to the release. Then it turned out that you had binary choices for everything, with them often being marked as, this is the good one, and this is the bad one. Often with the bad option not really having much of a benefit to the hero, so it felt like you had to go out of your way to be evil. I don't know if that mirrors real life or not.
Morality has always been super important to Fable. That tension between good and evil underpinned all of the original games. And morality is central to our game too, but we have a slightly different take on it.
Chicken chase is still a thing, in case you were worried that that wasn't making a comeback. Another beautiful shot of Butterfield Market and the walls of Bowerstone.
For us, morality isn't black and white. There are lots of grey areas. And importantly, morality is subjective. No two people see things exactly the same way. And that's how it works in our game too.
This seems like it's going to be a more granular system, whereby smaller decisions affect the numbers in the background and how individual NPCs feel about you. Like, if you evict poor Oliver, he hates you, but then maybe his mates will dislike you too, and maybe they'll spread rumours. I'm keen to see like how much impact plays out in the actual game.
Everything you do earns you a reputation. And every person in Albion will have a different reaction to you as a result.
Hello there.
Yeah, we get it. You're rich.
They'll remember things you did directly to them, they'll love you or hate you for the choices you make, and they will always tell you why. Although, usually from a safe distance.
Our game will never judge you, but the people of Albion will, loudly.
Imbecile.
In his interview with IGN, Ralph Fulton has confirmed that we will not have morality morphing on our character. This refers to halos and horns and like cracked skin, red eyes, blonde hair, all those kinds of things that you got in previous games, specifically from being good or evil when you got to either end of the scale. His specific response was, that sort of character morphing feature, obviously a really central part of the original games, it's not in ours. And I'll tell you why. There's probably a couple of reasons. One, I guess it's about the high-level principle I was talking about, that there's no objective good and evil, and the original games were predicated on there being an objective good and objective evil, and you were somewhere along that scale, and that's what determined how your appearance changed. He goes on to explain, but for us, that doesn't really work. The way I've described our morality system working, you're never that thing absolutely. You're different things to different people based on what they like, what they choose to value. So that's one reason it didn't work. There's another reason, which is in our game, you build reputation based on the settlement, the town, the city that you're in, the part of the world that you're in. But when you go to a new place, a place you've never been before, you walk in without any reputation, and thus nobody knows what to think about you. And you can almost, through your behavior, through your choices, form completely different reputations, a completely different identity, if you like, in that place from the place that you were last time. And you can do that across all the locations in the game. Now, you couldn't do that if you walked in with horns and a trident. Your reputation would precede you in that instance. And honestly, the ability to be completely in control of your identity, and thus what people think of you, felt more important to us than a legacy feature. So it worked great in those games. It didn't seem to fit ours, so we don't have it. Overall, while it's different, and the gaming community is quick to say, I don't like change, I can see a lot of fun to be had. You could be universally loved across Albion, except in Westcliff, where you're an absolute bastard to everybody for no reason.
Your reputation is created by the choices you make, and you are going to make a lot of them. big choices, little choices, moral choices, and some choices that will actually change the landscape of Albion for the rest of your game. We call this idea, Your Choices Change the World.
Your choices change the world. Ah, yes. So much more succinct than some choices that will change the landscape of Albion. I'm nitpicking here, obviously. This is a YouTube video. What else would I be doing? It just really tickled me that they seem to be trying to coin some really long, unnecessary phrases.
Let's give you an example.
Early in the game, you'll meet a character named Dave, an egotistical gardener in a rural village who discovers a magical growth formula. He accidentally turns himself into a giant and becomes a big problem. It'll be your job to deal with him, and ultimately it will be your choice whether to kill him or to spare him. If you kill him, his giant corpse will lie on the farmland just outside of town for the rest of the game.
And that is going to affect house prices. It will also affect what a lot of the villagers think about you.
Especially Dave's sister.
This actually seems like a really cool choice. I'm a little sad that it's been spoiled for the trailer. They did have to show us something to prove that they were doing choices that impact the game. Lots of the quest content we've seen so far has been centered around this story beat, so hopefully they're keeping it that way to avoid spoilers for other parts of the game. One of the best choices in the previous game series is right at the start of Fable 2. Do you give the warrants to the criminal or the guard, resulting in entirely different design and functions for Old Town? It was a great way to show that what you did made a difference, so I'm really keen to have more of it. My question now is, if I don't kill Dave, is he going to stay a giant and stomp about Albion? Or is there going to be some kind of cop-out where he turns back into a small, regular-sized human? Because personally, I want Giant Dave stomping about the kingdom. Seems like an advantage if you can get him on side.
In Fable, the choices you make will define you. What does being a hero mean to you?
And then we end on the new key art for the game. There's a few bits in here that stand out: the hobs in the bottom right, the beanstalk and giant pair of boots. There's also what are either nymphs or fairies. There was a fairy in the first announcement trailer, but we haven't seen them again since, except for some wall art in the playground offices. So this could be the return of the very annoying enemy from the first Fable game that flies around and summon hobs to whack you while you try and shoot them down. The hero is also standing on a troll, which I didn't notice for the longest time. Honestly, the more you look at this key art, the more you see. I think the best thing to do is just point everything out in the comments, because there's loads of stuff that I haven't spotted.
At Playground Games, we've built a pedigree for beautiful, immersive, open-world experiences. Yes, they've typically involved sports cars, but this is a passion project for all of us here. Every member of this team, which we've built from scratch, has two key things in common: a deep love for the franchise and a burning desire to bring it back. We're making this for Fable fans just like us, but also to introduce Fable to gamers who've never played the series before. It's been great to finally tell you a little about the game we're making. There'll be much more to share as we get closer to our launch. I'm excited to tell you today that Fable is coming to Xbox, PC, and PlayStation in autumn 2026. From all of us here, thanks for watching.
I've reached the end of my script now, and I've realised that I never talked about the minimap. I kept saying, I'll do that later. So, let's do quickfire shop icons that appear on the minimap. At 1:55, we have a notice board and pub. At 4:58, we have crossed swords, which could be for a fight or weapon. At 7:41, I'm not sure what that is. Could be a well. There's also a hint of what I think is an apple, like a fruit trader maybe. At 8:28, we see a steak, likely a meat vendor. 8:40, we see the apple in full. 9:01, we see a flower stall. At 9:11, we see a teddy bear, which is likely a toy salesman, and a notice board, probably for side quests. At 9:30, we see a books vendor, so we might be finding expressions or skills in books. And at 9:53, we see a blacksmith's anvil and what looks like the apple with Z's above it. So maybe that indicates that the shop is closed. Anyway, that brings me to the end of my breakdown of the new Fable footage. Thank you very much for joining me. I really enjoyed that. If you want to get more of my content, you can catch me a couple of nights a week over on Twitch. You can join my Discord server using the links in the description below. I'll be covering as much Fable content as I can find time to from now until the release. And until then, guys, look after yourselves. Bye for now.